For the most part, the new NAL teams are the ones I'm really trying to play against to see because they have the most approved. You know, they just came in.
We definitely feel like we are underestimated and overlooked.
To say that we're going to prove people wrong, of course we are.
They're all kind of like younger talent, I guess you could say. So they're going to have like a drive and a hunger.
They're trying to get their name out there, trying to take out the top dogs.
The hungry dog runs faster. I think we have a lot to prove. All of us have had chips on our shoulders. You know, none of us have ever been handed anything in this game, and now we're here to make a statement.
We have the aggressive play style, and people hate it, and it kind of breaks a lot of teams.
Those teams are in general like pretty aggressive, so you're just going to have to watch out for the aggressive plays and shut them down.
A team I'm excited to play against, I'd say, is XSET. The play style is pretty explosive.
Me and Thomas have kind of like a rivalry going on. We're both really good friends, but it's just going to be fun every time we play them.
It's just for, you know, bragging rights with me and Achieved, so I just want to smoke Achieved and have them buy me dinner. I don't think really TSM is worried about us, but we're going to give everyone a run for their money.
We feel personally that we can hang with anyone, we can play with anyone. The only way we're going to lose is us making mistakes.
We're feeling really good coming into this. It's been a long time in the making.
We're all there to win. That's our goal no matter what. Once it's game time, you know, just try to drown out and focus on the game.
They're not here to win. We came here to win, so we're going to win.
Hey, you in the sweatpants in bed watching the stream on your phone listening to Juice World. Do you want to win some free stuff? Well, you can do that thanks to our wonderful sponsor, Fuse.tv, an Overwolf extension that you can get and highlight clips that you get from Rainbow Six Siege and meme it up and diversify it in whatever way you want. The way that this works is if you head to Fuse.tv/R6NA, you can go and submit your clips that you make using Fuse.tv and win some stuff and even be featured right here on the screen right next to me on broadcast. Let's take a look at the 3 winners that we just had from this most recent tournament from last week. Let's go ahead and take a look.
I'm coming in, Dustin on site.
Your location has been compromised.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Harry H, Oz Diddy, Chaos Noob, the 3 of you are the winners from our contest for last week. And if you want to get your hands on R6 credits and additional stuff right from Ubisoft and from Fuse TV, then head over to Fuse.tv/R6NA and you can go over there and submit your clips. We will be right back with TSM versus XSET as our match number 2 of the day in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
Introducing Fuse TV, the richest video editor for gamers. Fuse TV makes it super easy to create awesome gaming clips with one-click video effects, GIFs, and music. Unleash your creativity with Fuse TV. Download free now.
I'm Bolo, and I am the flex and entry for TSM. You are watching R6 NAL.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NAL Day 2. We have XSET going against TSM in our second match of the day. I'm your host, Velly, and right next to me, both sides, we're going to have Jesse and Jacob. And fellas, for this matchup right here, Jesse, I'm going to hear from you, man. Are we going to expect the expected, or is this going to be a dogfight?
I mean, based on last week's results, I think anything could happen. TSM should be the favorites on paper, but they've already lost to one Challenger League team from last year. XSET could be trying to make that too.
All right. So let's introduce the teams. First up is going to be TSM and Jacob. What time does Bolo play?
Right now.
All right,
for those of you asking in chat, it's right now.
Now, Jacob, what was it that you think got under TSM's skin in that match against Beast Coast, man? That was the first big upset we got in the NAL, and I kind of wonder what your thoughts are about it.
Well, some of those rounds for Beast Coast yesterday was TSM simply not being able to deal with raw, aggressive power and pushing into sight really, really quickly. Sometimes they countered it, but sometimes they didn't, and when they didn't, it cost them dearly. But the other thing about their game against Beast Coast from last week is they were trying to hold on to as many angles as they could, but Beast Coast, very expertly, I might add, found the avenues of approach and the stuff that TSM wasn't watching, especially when they were on their own attack, and capitalized on it pretty damn beautifully.
All right, Jesse, you actually had a talk with somebody on TSM the other day, and why did they share any type of information about what really happened last week, why the upset was caused?
Yeah, I had a chat with Data, the analyst for TSM, after the game happened, and I said, Data, what happened? You guys were not supposed to lose to Beast Coast.
No.
And he told me about how the communication really wasn't there for the team. Things were breaking down. Usually TSM are so coordinated, they act as one unit. That wasn't happening, and he gave me a few reasons why. Apparently last week, things weren't really clicking for the team outside a game. Charles been dealing with some stuff. Merc was just getting over some really bad food poisoning, apparently.
Oh, no.
So that was really just hampering their communication, and the team wasn't in the right mental state even before the game started. He said that hopefully things will get better for the second game, and he didn't want to take the win away from Beast Coast by any stretch of the imagination. They obviously played really fast, really well, and they caught TSM off guard quite a bit. But
Yep.
I'm thinking if, Merc's stomach is feeling a little bit better, hopefully the communication will get better, and TSM won't have the same issues, but of course, only time will tell.
All right, now let's talk about XSET, one of the newest Zorgs that joined the NAL, along with teams like Beast Coast and whatnot, but this team is filled with nothing but gunners, and we actually heard it on the content piece. I forgot who it was on TSM that said, I believe it was Achieve, but they said they have an aggressive play style, and Thomas said that's the reason why teams are going to be annoyed with us. Now, Jacob, I'm looking at you for this one. Some of them were slacking in the first half, and we saw their debut, and XSET, we know they're better than that. What do you want to see from XSET today right now, and how much of a statement do you think they can make against TSM?
Yeah, specifically about your point from the first half, both Thomas and Creators in their game last week really struggled hard. It took them a while to finally find their footing, but when they did, they showed their resilience. They bounced back. They got their stat lines back to an even 1.0 in some cases, or a 1.0 KD. They did good, but not good enough to really stem the bloodshed. And something I know that we'll want to talk about specifically is Drip, one of the worst performing players from anyone who played last week. You're looking for him, obviously, to have a much better day, even though he's playing support. There was something some chink in the armor for XSET where they just didn't really manage to find a rhythm. They kept things close for a bit, but in the end, it was just slip after slip.
Yep. Now, Jesse, XSET's roam game. I mean, they showed us a lot of issues, and now that we have VOD on them from last week, I mean, we could pretty much pinpoint them out, and I'm pretty sure, I've seen your streams, I've seen you prep for these game days, man. Was there a few things you could pick up from XSET's strategy that you think could be improved on, especially in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, XSET are known as an aggressive team. They're known to be, quite strong on the roam game in Challenger League last year and such. But last game, that really didn't show up. And genuinely, I thought their positioning was pretty good. I thought that their teamwork was all right. They were playing together for the most part. But they weren't hitting shots, Veli. They couldn't win a gunfight on those roams, and to me that really speaks to perhaps some of the nervousness. A lot of these players for the first time are coming into the tier 1 scene. A lot of them are veterans, or it's been a little bit of time since they've been back up here, or they didn't necessarily know where they were going to be heading into the season, and then coming out onto the stage too against such a strong opponent for week 1. I think there were some nerves. I'm hoping that that's gone away because this team is talented.
They're so
Creators
good.
is nuts. We've got really talented players and Butters as well. Obviously, Filthy, Thomas, Drip. These are players that you expect to pop off. So I need to see that a little bit more today, whether that's on the roam game or on those clears as well. Hopefully they can show up with their guns a little bit higher today.
All right, fellas, this one is for both of you, okay? Now, XSET, okay, we all know that last week teams were popping off. They were feeling good. They're on land. They can see their opponents. They let them know whenever they lost a round. XSET, Jesse, you said they were arguably the loudest team last Wednesday. Now, you said also a point that their guns weren't hot. Do you think that that could really affect them if they bring that type of talk but can't walk it against TSM, man?
Yeah, I mean, the mental game is so interesting to dive into for these teams, right? Because when you're yelling at the opponents across the stage, when you're getting excited, that can really get your adrenaline pumping, and it can actually make you play significantly better. Now, whether we see that in practice all the time, that's a point to be debated. I think that certainly there are teams that maybe like XSET, can get really excited and really loud and then just fall apart on the server. Not that happened every round. I think we're maybe, dragging them down a little bit harder than we should. They had some good rounds. They had some good gunplay as well last week, and so part of that probably does come from the trash talk that they're throwing across the stage. I think they could do it again. I think that they could really hype themselves up and hit some shots.
But Jesse, there has to be something that has to be said, right?
Yeah.
I used to trash talk when I played too, but you know what the worst part is, Jesse?
What?
And we see it in our ranked games. If you trash talk and the round doesn't turn out the way that you thought it would go, or the next 3 rounds will go the way you thought it would go, what type of effect would that have on you? Especially against a team that can just steamroll you. You got Bolo and Merc entering, man.
I mean, I think there's 2 different, philosophies to this, right? You can hype yourselves up and then just keep going with it, even when you're losing, kind of try to reset your mental, pretend like that's not happening, and you still are wanting to take charge and act like you're better than the opponent. That's probably my favorite way to deal with it, and I think that's kind of how XSET like to pump up their mental. Or you could probably, you could pull those shells in a little bit. And I think the danger with, calming down when you're on a losing streak and getting less hype is you spiral. Sometimes if you really lose that mental game, you stop popping off when you lose 3 or 4 rounds in a row, you could get in your own head, doubt your skills, and nobody wants that on game day.
Yeah. Hey, Jacob.
Yo.
Do you think TSM redeems himself today, man?
I want them to, but I do think it'll come down to battleground / map pick. You need something for TSM to kind of go their way. And even though Villa was a good map for them last week, now it's what do you do? How do you shake off the massive mental blow of losing to arguably the most underdog team in the NAL for this entire season? What do you do if your team's solo mid? I would say rely on Bolo, but he had 4 frags and he was the worst performing player on the team from a kills point of view last week. So it's not even like you can use him as a crutch. What do you do if you're TSM? Far as I'm concerned, XSET need to be the ones to make some mistakes, because if they do, TSM can pounce like a cougar, and that's really all she wrote. But that's if TSM have the wherewithal to notice these little small mistakes that XSET make, because if their game from yesterday was any indication, they absolutely will be making them again. TSM just need to be on the ball.
All right, I was going to say, always good things happen when, Cougars pounce. I mean, TSM, they could definitely do that. Jesse, the maps just came in, man. Knowing TSM, and you know a little bit about XSET, what do you think these 2 teams are going to battle it out at?
Chalet.
Maybe
Jacob, it's not happening.
Could happen.
Jacob,
I could see
not
Consulate. That's probably the one that I would expect. Clubhouse, that's an odd one. TSM kind of like this map. Coastline is another one that XSET kind of likes, so a little bit odd for me. Chalet makes sense. Goodbye. They're not going to roll with those shenanigans. Consulate also makes a lot of sense. XSET don't need to ban this too often, but they don't love it. Villa and Oregon, those also make relatively sensible picks. The ban, obviously, on Villa is what TSM played before. But Cafe Dostoyevsky, TSM are undefeated on this map since the start of Stage 1. Way back in the day, it wasn't too great for them, but as of right now, they're on a 3-game win streak, so they should feel pretty comfortable coming here. XSET have only ever played this map once, and it was in the Dark Zero Pro-Am, where they lost 6-8 to the hosts of the tournament. So, not a bad scoreline, especially to such a prestigious team, but not a ton of experience, not a ton of VODs for XSET. It's going to be a bit of a wild card for them.
All right, now, Jacob, do you think the wild card team XSET is going to pull up a win against TSM, or do you think TSM is going to show everyone that last week was a fluke, man? It's prediction time.
I'm keeping this one short.
Okay.
We're going to Cafe. TSM loves it. XSET plays it almost never. TSM win. This is pretty easy.
Jesse, I suck at math, and that checks out, man. What are your calculations over there?
I'm really glad that Kix is casting this match, because he and I have a lot of conversations about TSM. In my opinion, TSM still look like one of the best teams in North America. They had one bad game, and they have some explanations as to why that maybe wasn't their strongest matchup. I have seen them in the recent months playing fantastically, and I expect them to bring that again here. I don't think we'll see history repeated from last week. This should be TSM bouncing back against the Challenger League squads. I'm going to give it to the guys in black and white.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have it. TSM on both sides once again. And for the first time, I think it's the first time both analysts are actually agreeing on predictions right now.
We did that last game, Belly. We literally did that last game.
I know, but today, I'm talking about today is the whole day, Jacob. But it's time for the games. Let's see if XSET, the new guys on the block, can take down the team that's been upset last week and also the champs of last season. TSM, Kix and Parker, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Veli. Greatly appreciated, and hopefully you've all been enjoying the show. I think most of us are in agreement here about TSM coming in as the favorite, especially with the map being Cafe. And touched on this a lot during our very first matchup, Michael, that because it's a best of one, the map pool tends to get distilled an awful lot, and it should be a relatively even playing field here. But this is one of TSM's best maps. So are you thinking what I'm thinking in regards to TSM coming in as the favorite?
Yeah, I do think that TSM is going to win this match, and Jesse pointed out that I'm a little bit skeptical of TSM's performance as of late. And I'd just like to clarify, I am. I think TSM are in a really bad spot right now, and I'm waiting for them to prove that they're not going to stay there. But while I do feel that way about TSM, I still think they're going to take a matchup against XSET, to be frank. This definitely seems like they're shaping up to take the dub here. But if they're somehow shakier than they were in the last Playday, then anything's possible here. The only thing is that XSET haven't really proven themselves yet, and yeah, so I'll take a weak TSM over an unproven XSET today.
I mean, XSET has been very vocal on Twitter and on social media as teams wanting to root for their downfall, so much so that somebody who likes to get cheeky from time to time, Lycan, actually poked them about it and said that, more time to root for the downfall of XSET. But I mean, Veli's really high on XSET, I gotta say. He is blowing up our group chat right now saying they're sleeping on him, etc.
Now he's denying it.
Now he's denying it, by the way. Now he's saying, no, I'm not.
You can't take it back, Veli.
And if I can quote Veli, TSN all the way, and TSM.
Well, he said,
so
he said it right.
That's host Veli, TSN all the way. I don't know who TSN is. I don't know if they're playing or not, but regardless, I think some people are sleeping on XSET, and it's hard because I think they got a high skill ceiling here as a team, but we don't really know what to expect match in, match out with them.
I just want to say one thing about XSET to clarify before we get to the community poll. They have all the tools, like everything's there, all the right components for XSET to be successful. We just haven't seen that happen yet. We haven't seen the success come together for XSET. They've been making a lot of mistakes. They've been making, throwing away a lot of good opportunities round to round, and they look really shaky. So I think it's part of it is mental. I'm waiting to see if they'll be able to patch that up. Before we get to the actual match, we do have a community poll. It's going to be a head-to-head of Bolo versus Creators. Who do you think is going to pop off more in this match? As was mentioned in the analyst portion, Bolo had a really bad match in his last map, versus Beast Coast. So, there's potential for an upset here, but I think we still all know who's going to win that poll.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, who do you hate the most? And as long as they see Bolo's name, they're going to click it.
Yeah.
He's going to win a poll that he shouldn't be winning. We talked about this before, right? But regardless, I mean, there was a rare bad game for Bolo. They don't happen all that often. We'll see if lightning strikes twice or not. TSM likes this map an awful lot. We don't have a ton of intel on how XSET plays on it. So speculation is currently just running wild. Let's get started to our second matchup of the day here. XSET versus TSM. TSM will ban first because they're going to be starting on defense. And old Thatchy boy. People, they love to hate you, man. Say good riddance to him. We got to see him in map 1. We're not going to see him in the second matchup.
Oh, boy. Look at that. Thatcher into a Maverick ban. You do not see that very often. And when you do, you know it's going to be a terrible map. Now, it's going to be Kali who has to open up the wall, or assist in opening up the wall. And that's really frustrating because there's not a lot of good places to play Kali on this map. If you bring Kali for a top floor, I mean, you're rocking a hard place. The wall denial is going to be very important here. And no Valkyrie ban on Cafe. Oh, boy. This is shaping up to be, number one, very defender-sided, and number two, very uncomfortable to play. Cafe can be absolutely horrendous when you get bans like these.
This is going to be a wild one. I was already expecting a wild matchup between these teams, but now it's going to be even wilder. I don't know what official term you're going to go when you know things are going to get even more wild, but here we are. And it's a reading fireplace start for TSM. Now, the top floor of Cafe, the double cocktail bomb site, was for a long period of time widely considered to be the most defendable and was also the favored bomb site for most teams. Slowly but surely that changed and it went down to kitchen and bakery, or what is I guess now just double kitchen bomb sites. Old habits die hard with the old bomb site being in the bakery. And for anybody that played Cafe pre-rework, you'll be very well aware of that and how untenable that bomb site was for the defenders. But this bomb site in particular, along with the other bomb site, which shares that dining area bomb site, it's referred to as fireplace officially. Most people just refer to it as dining. The other one is over in train, or engine as it's often called. The community likes to change up the callouts, so follow along if you can. Those tend to be the other two bomb sites outside of kitchen down below. We don't really see the top floor that much, seldom played, because teams like to leave it as a bit of a buffer. And you can see exactly here. This is going to be TSM investing so heavily on the top floor. They've got most of their reinforcements up top, mute jammers, Goyo shields, ADSs, and I'm sure there's a Banshee or two up there as well. Don't get too disoriented as we fly around the map.
Whee!
This is going to present quite an interesting challenge for XSET. If they can cleave through this very quickly, if they can just slice and dice through these defenses, it's not going to leave TSM with too much left on the bomb site.
I like the setup from TSM. Very thorough. They were extremely quick to get their reinforcements, their castles, and their mutes and everything down. They clearly have a, setup strategy for this hold, given the current bans, and that bodes well for TSM. It's a good sign. Well, so far, no real action here. You always see in Cafe the first minute or so go really slowly. Geo is doing a shuffle inside a cocktail. Hopefully he doesn't disconnect, but we'll see. Stun's going in to clear out the ADS, and the nade will follow up to destroy the shuttle. And Geo's gone, but he crashed before he died. So I want that to go on the record. Geo died because he was mid-crash. So yeah, they did get the kill, but I mean, it was an unearned kill, I guess.
I mean, technically, XSET is credited with that very first kill. So I mean, put it down. There you go, Siege GG. You know that XSET got the first kill.
He was already crashed. He was already crashed, Parker.
On a technicality, Merc playing very close to the bathroom, as in the previous matchup, he'd had some issues with his stomach and wasn't feeling super well, so good spot for him to play in. A bit of a counter punch from TSM will land onto Butters. Down goes the Sledge, who was the person who'd gotten the kill onto Geo. Bolo decides to swing onto Thomas, playing outside in the AC unit, and, well, Bolo will only last about a minute and a half, because now XSET has once again gained another advantage. They take out Bolo on White Stairs. Creators, hello. You might want to check Freezer. Merc gets one, but Drip, trying to avenge his previous performance, will find another kill. And once again, XSET back on top in numbers.
Achieved. What?
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, he's running my charm.
That's your charm.
It's neato. Thanks, Chief. Chief playing bottom of White Stairs. He's trying to get his man count back. Chala's shooting drones for him. So Chief is trying to spring out, because when you're a man down, you can't just leave it a man down. Even with 30 seconds left, there's still plenty of time for XSET to execute onto the site. So Chief is going to try his very best to get a frag back in a position that he's not expected to be playing. Drops into Laundry. Chala will get one. Shotgun out for the second, but he sprints. That's ill-advised, and it's going to be a double piece for Thomas to clear up that round. XSET take the very first.
That's a big round, and once again, a little bit of mistakes there from TSM, and I can't necessarily fault them for it, because when you get put in a position where one of your players crashes, as Geo did, you have to take chances. You noted it yourself. If you find yourself in a 3v5, a 2v5, you don't necessarily have an option to just sit and wait. You can't bide your time, because you're going to get narrowed down and you're going to get pounced upon. You have to make risky plays. So TSM are a team that are often capable of making those plays. They're talented. All 5 of them can easily carry a game. All 5 of them have pulled off miraculous plays in the past. But XSET were there to capitalize, and it's a good first round from XSET, frankly, even though it wasn't necessarily under the greatest circumstances for TSM.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate that Geo crashed there, but it is what it is. We were already into the round at that point. It was pretty deep, so not sure it would have changed the result even if he hadn't died right after he crashed. Either way, XSET with a decent execution there. They made some mistakes at the same time, though, and that you run the risk of falling victim to those when you're in an actual 5v5. A couple mistakes also being made from TSM as well, specifically at the end. That could have been an easy clutch up, to be honest. You have the shotgun out, you're holding the laundry door, just don't sprint. Just hold the gun out. I've made that mistake before. Everyone has. That's a really common one in Siege. Most often when you're in a situation where there's only 5 seconds, 10 seconds left, the best thing you could do is keep your gun up. Don't let the enemy see you in a position where you're not going to be able to fight back, and that is obviously mid-sprint. Some people, I've actually known professional players who have to unbind their sprint key to practice not sprinting in those situations. No joke. I've known that to happen.
I mean, if Chala hadn't sprinted, all he needs to do is hold the doorway with a shotgun. He wins that.
Yeah,
he wins that duel. He doesn't die. You've still got Achieved in that powerful position on white stairs as well. And TSM is in great spot to just ride out the rest of the round. These small mistakes, and we saw them from TSM in that matchup. We saw them commit an abundance of mistakes against Beast Coast. And you know what? I would be kind of annoyed if I was the players on Beast Coast, because you don't want the story of that matchup being how much your opponents sucked versus how good you were. But the problem was that TSM stunk in that matchup. And obviously, you have to give some credit and some praise to Beast Coast for how they played around it. But that was not TSM playing anywhere near the potential that we know they're capable of. And if they keep committing small mistakes, they're going to get punished for them. We're not in the old days of the old NA Pro League 4-3 2 years ago, where there was always 2 to 3 teams that were just bottom feeders that frankly almost never competed near the top. We are as close to parity as I would argue the NA League ever has been, and the results back last week should be the starting point towards a very credible argument that all of these teams are capable of competing week in, week out. Now, there will obviously be weak teams. We don't know who they'll be just yet. It's entirely possible that TSM is one of those teams. But based upon what we've seen from them over the last couple seasons, this is not a squad that should be getting pushed around by either Beast Coast or XSET based upon their experience and based upon the pedigree that we know of TSM.
No, I wholeheartely agree. I do think that I personally have not jumped on the TSM train just yet. I'm waiting to see them prove themselves a little bit more. For those of you wondering what's going on, the admin was checking some things, so there's something going on. We're waiting for that to be cleared up. It looks like it may have just been, but either way, admin was just doing a double take on something before we actually started the match. We might have an admin call here that might change some things. We're waiting for, yeah, actually, I can confirm now. The admin has made a call. We will be replaying the round, it seems.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, technically, Geo did disconnect before the nade killed him. Like, I can confirm. We saw him do the disconnect moonwalk. He 100% was not in the lobby. Even saw a text message come out in the chat before the grenade ended up finishing him off. So I guess the rulebook somehow is going to put us in a position where the admin calls a rehost for that round and we go back to 0-0.
Well, for TSM, I mean, those little mistakes, I guess they don't really matter right now at this point. You're going to be quite happy with that result. And I mean, maybe TSM were expecting the round to be replayed anyway, which could explain some of their behavior. I mean, that's the hopeful result here, by the way. If you're a fan of TSM, you are very much hoping that those mistakes that were committed were not just simply amateurish mistakes, but instead were committed because they knew the round was going to be replayed. And we've seen this before where teams are aware that things are going to change or that the round doesn't matter, and they will just do some funny things because they know that they can afford it. In that case, though, I mean, let's focus a little bit on how XSET played off of that. They never let up the gas. They themselves committed some mistakes, too. I mean, the big one was Creators playing at the top of white stairs. He gets spotted inside a bar. Nobody droned out Merc playing in that position. And if it wasn't for Drip having a good shot on him, that very easily could have ended any chances of XSET coming back on that round, because Thomas would not have been able to patrol that hatch above, drop into laundry and get the final 2 kills if you've still got Merc playing up there. That's a contested spot that you're going to have to fight for. So, I mean, XSET committed some mistakes too, even though they ended up winning the round. Maybe we're sleeping on them. I don't know.
You know, Parker, I mean, it was a good execution overall. I like their assertiveness with the positioning. And it looks like, one thing I gotta say, I talked about the mental for XSET and it being a problem in the past, and I do still think that their mental is probably their biggest flaw. We've seen them be in great positions before and let that just slip away unprompted, honestly. And, well, this time it's being taken away from XSET. They already won that round. According to the rules, apparently, the admin who made the call, that round is actually not going to be theirs. So how will they feel differently in this situation? Is this going to fire them up? I'm hopeful that it will. Knowing these players, I think XSET is going to have a fire lit under them, and I'm hopeful that going into these next few rounds, they're going to be even sharper.
Well, we don't need to go through the operator ban phase yet again. However, TSM is going to need to run the same lineup, and they're going to need to go to the same bomb site. So already that's going to give an upper hand to XSET because they know exactly where they're going to go, where they're going to have to attack, and they know the instruments and tools that TSM will be bringing to this fight. So that buys XSET a bunch of time. And think about how much discovery is usually done. You now have extra time to plan and strat around something that you already know the basis of. The one question I have is that teams don't need to emulate the entire setup from what I understand. And because of this, TSM are going to be free to put that utility elsewhere. And I have no doubt that that is going to be their plan, even though this bomb site doesn't tend to get played out all that differently by certain teams time and time again.
We saw, I think it's not different, this setup. It's not special what TSM is doing on this reading defense. It's slightly altered, but you can't call it different. The difference here is that it's an extension into backbar storage and freezer, and a castle barricade to facilitate that extension. So it's like, it's basically the same setup as what we always see here, done slightly different. And that's, I mean, it's not a deviation really. It's just like, oh, this is how TSM wants to do it. It didn't work out last time, obviously, as we all saw, but that round is nullified. So second chance here for TSM.
Cross your fingers that nobody's going to die out early on so that we don't need to go through all that rigmarole yet again, though these things do happen. Also, major shout out to whoever's idea it was to lower the time between matchups. That is a really nice feature. That's a really nice change because we're right back into this one quite so quickly, and already XSET using some of their utility to pick away at others that are committed by TSM. Now they managed to take out the Goyo shield just as they did before. This time Geo is not AFK to perish to the flames, so though he takes some damage, he's still around, and XSET cannot enter so confidently knowing that they have the advantage they had last time.
Interesting stun there. I think it was just to check to see if there was an ADS or a flare or something along those lines. TSM are confirming that they want to control upstairs, but they're going to lose the first player upstairs. It's Merc and Cocktail to go down. And I think that TSM wants the refrag. They still seem to be trying to play off white, but that's such a dangerous position to play, and they'll actually eventually fall back.
Well, good start for XSET, and Merc obviously showed what he could do last time in this particular position. Now, you'd have to imagine that most of TSM have been pushed off of their spots upstairs, as XSET has control of that top floor, and indeed, TSM has scurried off of that hold and are now much safer in the bomb sites below. But two members of TSM lurk into the depths on that first floor, waiting ever so patiently. Unfortunately for Geo, the jig is up. He's been spotted out downstairs, and you know how dangerous it can be to try to ascend the stairs to get back to safety. Thomas flies a little bit too close to the sun. Bolo punishes him for it. Thomas was obviously a very critical playmaker in the previous round and was the person who had the kill for XSET in this one too.
Still, this round there's a lot of time left for XSET to execute from above, and they've got the presence to do so. There's a sledge in play, there's breach charges all over. And with 35 seconds, they can make that vertical work for them. The one difference here is that there's not as many picks on TSM, so when they actually do go for the execution on the site, it looks like it's going to be a bit more of a brawl. That doesn't necessarily favor TSM, considering the control and positioning that we have for XSET, but Chala is going to make it favor them as they get the first kill in reading. Geo also add to it after Chala was refragged, and Filthy and Butters are out and alone now, isolated. Butters from above is going to have to drop the only attacker now, and he'll drop into the waiting arms of Geo.
What a difference that round was for TSM on the way that they played that. Far more conservative, far more cautiously than what we'd seen before. And I mean, obviously, you don't need to scramble and reposition after giving up a death early on. Additionally, the communication from XSET looked quite sound. They knew where Chala was playing by the sofa and reading, and it was very apparent that the drop was synced up with the player above of Butters to try to punish Chala. But Butters was about a second too late, and because of that, Chala's able to do quite a bit of damage to the drop players from XSET inside of Laundry. While this happens as well, because Chala's able to make that call after dealing that damage, TSM can then reposition themselves as well. As you saw Bolo get a little bit more aggressive by moving up inside of Dining from Fireplace. So ultimately, TSM reacts off of that, and just a half second too late from Butters is ultimately that very first push onto the domino that ends up knocking all of XSET down.
Speaking of down, it's going to be the bottom floor here for TSM as their secondary bomb site. They stuck to reading, so that wasn't an upset, unless the admin called, of course, that they had to repeat the first round, which is possible. Either way, they now know where they're most comfortable. TSM are looking pretty solid. The control that was established from TSM through that last round, or not established, the control that was retaken from XSET was really impressive. We often see defenders, when roaming, give up control and then never retake, never pressure. But that was not the case in the last round. I think that's what stood out most to me. XSET were constantly feeling the pressure of TSM. Oh, this is why you banned Valkyrie on this map, by the way.
Now, there have been a couple pros, by the way, who have suggested that Valkyrie cameras expire when they get thrown outside, and obviously that would disable that level of play. Regardless, it's still great intel for now. You've got the double Roni combo, and we actually talk a lot about how the Roni sees a lot of play on LAN, but not a lot of play necessarily online. I don't know if you want to dive into that just for a second here.
I mean, a big part of that is that going for a headshot on LAN is like way more important, and it's way more consistent as well. You're more likely for your bullet to actually register the way you want it to. Roni is a headshot or bust kind of gun, kind of like the MPX. That's, you know, why people bring it. And so, yeah, if you're going to be going for the headshot, you might want the best gun for it. Speaking of, the R4C, what a weapon to take down Geo. Start off this round for XSET.
And Geo essentially dies for free because Achieved isn't in a position to refrag. He tried in vain, but wasn't aggressive enough. That's also because if he decided to push up, he would have gone toe-to-toe with Filthy. This is a bottom floor bomb site, by the way. So at some point, XSET, through these remaining 90 seconds, are going to have to work their way towards the bomb below. We'll see if they're able to do that. They're still on drone work, so more discovery being done from them. As you can hear, the L85 find Bolo, but not do anywhere near enough damage to kill him.
Lots of vertical potential here for XSET as they still have a sledge and breaching charges to use. Opening up above this site, it's going to be very dangerous for TSM in the site itself very soon here. They're going to need to send some players out of sight in order to either get the man advantage back or to, you know, gain control somewhere else. Looks like XSET is shaping up for a bakery take. And luckily for TSM, they have full information on this. That's going to call out to Achieved, so he'll push up White. Chala will also get Butters on a nice angle in sight, and things are looking better for TSM now.
And all because of that Valkyrie camera outside, not spotted. And it gives all the intel that TSM needs now to be able to capitalize off of this. And TSM will be able to push and pull their way through the remainder of this map. It's going to be tough for XSET to break into the bomb site. Now, they still have some utility. They've got flashes at their disposal, but there's a flank coming in from TSM. And I don't know if Merc's position at the bottom of Red Stairs has been spotted. XSET only have 15 seconds to pull this off. And they're going to be doing it largely blind. This is a tall task for them. They've got tons of fragging potential. It is a 4v4, but Merc starts off the festivities. Bolo in on it as well. They're going to be looking longingly towards Bakery, and XSET will scramble. But there's Thomas. He's on his own flank. Nobody sees it. He takes down one, but on time alone, XSET wastes way too much of it, and the clock hits 0, giving TSM the round.
Great round there from TSM. There was a glaring hole in their defense by Whiskey Bar that almost cost them in the end, with Thomas flanking in late. But because of how late the flank was from Thomas, it didn't end up mattering. Look at that. 3 seconds when Thomas hits the door. It's weird to look at the way that these rounds are being executed. XSET very slow on their execution, missing some major points, and TSM, on the other hand, trying to go for some dangerous plays that almost end up costing them. It's weird, Parker. I'm not entirely sure who's playing better right now, to be frank, because we're seeing mistakes being made from both TSM and XSET. Yes, TSM has 2 rounds in a row. These rounds are very close, and they're both mostly because of time.
I mean, if XSET isn't a team that plays Cafe all that frequently, then this is bound to happen, right? I mean, we talked about it. We don't have a ton of intel on how XSET plays this map. If you are not the most comfortable on playing on this map, and you have to attack against a team that knows Cafe quite well, and is still a favorable map for defenders, then you're going to be in a rut. And I mean, TSM now finds themselves in a pretty decent position. I mean, they now need to go to a 3rd bomb site. They're going to go upstairs to Cocktail. This is typically a bomb site, like I said in round number 1. We don't see a ton of play here. But when we do see it, teams tend to be decently good at it as long as they don't get overrun very quickly. There isn't much of a buffer on this bomb site. If you lose that top floor, if you lose your foothold, the whole thing just crumbles, especially if you don't have an ability to retake because the stairwells are held by a good team that has claymores, that has nomad, that has gridlock, etc. In this case, XSET's got a claymore, it's got a nomad as well, and it's got the first pick as well. Add to all those things. Achieved in Creators will tussle. Creators comes out on top. XSET, 3 rounds in a row, and they've got the opening pick in all 3 of those rounds.
And they've managed to lose 2 out of 3 of them. Are they going to go 3 for 3 is the question. Merc is looking to get the re as he's positioned himself on the middle floor, trying to challenge Creators. Having shot the drone, Creators is hesitating for his push. He's got Thomas coming from bottom white. There's the lifeline, sun going out. Trying to see if there's anyone there. Drone to follow it up, and here comes the push down the red hallway as well from Creators. He's going to try and apply that pressure directly. Holes being held from above, and nice read! Creators will take down Chala. Oh boy, what a shot. It looks like Creators is looking to upset that community poll.
Creators is absolutely feeling it right now, and he's picked away at 2 more important pieces of TSM's arsenal. XSET is shaping up now to try and push into the bomb site at some point because they felt like they had the upper hand, but unfortunate for them, Creators, 2 kills is all he's going to get. He's going to sit out the rest of this round. Bolo finds the kill, but then immediately traded off by Thomas on white stairs. XSET, if they continue to trade down these numbers, they're going to come out on top. Have they droned out down below? The answer, no. Merc answers it very quickly and puts his team in a better position than it was just a couple seconds ago. But Merc also no information, so he flies blind to the top of white and gets punished by Drip for it, who once again just rushes right in. This is just a calamity between these teams. Nobody seems to have any information. The one thing Geo does have, though, it's Diffuser down at the top of white stairs.
This is actually good for Geo. He's in a very easily clutched situation, but as Filthy crosses on inner bar, he's actually switched the roles. Look at that. Geo from Piano landing a nice headshot onto Butters. Now in the 1v1, Filthy has yet to get his first kill. Geo's sitting on 4, and the Alda is definitely not going to be easy to deal with here. A reloaded one as well. 20 seconds left. Filthy has to go for a plant, and he's doing so inside of Cocktail on the right side. Geo knows it. Whether it's through info or sound, it doesn't matter. He's got it, and there it is. The clutch from Geometrics. A triple kill in the round, and that's 3 rounds in a row for TSM.
It's a heartbreaker for XSET and a heartbreaker for their fans, and you can see that the team is not particularly happy about this one. Never a good thing when you're finger pointing after a round. Things were shaping up quite well for XSET, and both teams, after getting a kill, tried to reposition themselves, and every time they did, they got caught for it. Punished for that lack of intel, punished for that lack of awareness. And I mean, with XSET taking the very first 2 picks, and you can thank Creators for that, every single trade from that point on is going to dramatically help XSET, because they trade down, they've still got 2 bodies up to the 0 for TSM. Problem is that there was still intel, and good intel for Geo to play off of, and after he repositioned, XSET's inability on that upside down rappel by the Cocktail bomb site to pick off Geo ended up being the reason for Geo to pivot towards white stairs, take out Drip, and then retreat. And by retreating, he was able to buy time, and there was either a default cam up or possibly even an evil eye cam. I'm not entirely sure which one was providing the intel, but you could see there were both yellow pings and red pings giving him intel. The Alda is a ferocious gun. If you have intel and information to go with it, in the right hands, that thing is going to mow down an entire team. We saw that in the very first Playday. We just saw it now as well with Geo. And TSM read the final 30 seconds of that round perfectly.
For me, the throw in that last round on XSET's side started with Drip's repel into white. It was just a little bit too ahead of his team, and there was a lot of time left. There was like no call for that. Maybe it was a mistake. I'm not really sure. Sometimes you can fat finger the spacebar when you're on repel on windows like that. Whatever the case be, what we do know for sure is that XSET allowed too many 1v1s in that clutch situation. Moving on to this round, it's going to be once again a reading defense for TSM. They have had the trifecta, the full cycle, the 3-0 on defense. That is a really good sign for TSM's run long-term in this map. They're going to be going to their starter site once again. Now, technically, they did lose this, although that round was nullified by the admin call. So there's a chance here for XSET. And I want to point out another thing. XSET has been getting the initial kill every single round. Like, they're getting these early picks. So I want to say, as long as TSM doesn't give away an early pick, that this should be a lot more one-sided in their favor.
It really is remarkable. And I mean, this also went back to our very first map, if I can refer to it. Disrupt and Space Station were very close until the bitter end. SSG was walloping them when it came to opening picks, but it didn't amount to anything because DG was able to keep it close. It's looking, at least through these 3 rounds, that TSM's performance was more of a fluke the other day than it was just simply them being a bad team. And I don't know what XSET is trying to do, by the way, but all of a sudden, Bolo, Butters, Creators, and now Merc have all lost a huge amount of their HP in what was just an absolute frag fest. And the only kill that comes out is Geo onto Thomas, who wasn't even somebody who'd been damaged in that ensuing fray. So with that, finally, TSM, as we're talking about it, get that opening pick.
Down goes that bulletproof camera, and Drip pushing down inner bar. He's going to get a nice shot on a Merc, silencing him for the round. And
that's a beauty.
Evened man count now as well, which makes things a lot better for XSET. But look at this. Geo's still above, and they still have info. Achieved is going to get a C4 vertically off of what is likely a Valkyrie cam. Things get even worse for XSET, especially considering they haven't cleared out Cocktail yet. Achieved another one from below, and to add insult to injury, Geo will pick up Drip, leaving just filthy by Whitehall. He's got 40 seconds, but that's just about all he has going for him right now.
Not only are there Valk cams, there's also a bulletproof camera up there from Geo, which is on the hard wall that it looks like they were finally able to get rid of on XSET's side, but Filthy's position is known, and because of the setup from TSM, back bar is undoable. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to have to cross a dangerous spot, and TSM's opened up most of that floor. What a dominating performance. And I got to say, that was the worst round that we've seen out of XSET so far. I have to ask now, through 2 separate rounds, not connected, but through 2 separate rounds, XSET seemed completely oblivious to the fact that TSM is investing so heavily on that top floor. I'm aware that there's a mute on the board, but are mute jammers the sole reason why XSET seemingly cannot locate the TSM members above? Or is there something greater going on for XSET with their communication and their droning just simply not hitting the mark?
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing so far, it's looking pretty rough for XSET. I talked about it earlier. I'll repeat it now. I do think that the mental is the biggest issue for XSET so far. They're a new team with a lot of young players that have a lot to prove, and I think I'm worried that they're letting that get to them. They just need to remind themselves that it's okay to make mistakes, and you can correct from them. Now, we are in the midst of a tactical timeout, and you can see the coach there, Brycer, trying to correct those mistakes, trying to give out the new game plan for XSET so that they can hopefully mount a recovery mission here. They need these last 2 rounds on the attacking half. Usually, you see the tertiary bomb site go the way of the attackers on Cafe. But that's not the case here. We've got 4 rounds in a row for TSM. Now, these last 2 rounds in the first half are a must-win for XSET, or things get really dangerous.
TSM hasn't really needed to struggle for 2 of these 4 rounds. Now, I mean, obviously they haven't had everything break in their favor, but overall TSM has been, I wouldn't even say really breaking a sweat on a lot of these rounds. It's tough because you've got XSET right now with Creators breaking in, he picks up 2 kills. They largely end up being impactless because the rest of the round swings in TSM's favor. Drip gets 2 remarkably good kills as well, but they're also largely impactless. Butters and Filthy have yet to find the scoreboard. I don't know if XSET are having an off day in terms of their setup. I don't know if they're having an off map. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's just that they're not the most comfortable on Cafe. I'm sure if you follow them on Twitter, they will talk about this in the post game about how comfortable they were here on this map. But it's also worth noting that not hitting your shots isn't just simply an individual problem. It can also be a team problem. If Filthy or Butters are getting droned in and they're not getting droned in properly, they're not being set up as best as they can be to capitalize and get those kills. So that's something else to keep in mind, and why we often talk about how KD is not necessarily the be-all end-all, because there's usually an explanation behind it, and a lot of times the explanation is a little bit deeper and not necessarily the fault of the person not getting the kills.
It's also, I mean, to do with this, just like the thoroughness of the execution. Like, for example, we still have those Valkyrie cams that have been a constant nuisance for XSET. Finally, after 4 rounds, they're bringing an IQ, but that's a little bit late, don't you think? Creators is calling a sound bug. I'm not sure what the admin's call is going to be on that. We are kind of deep into the round. I don't know. We'll find out, obviously. It's not our decision, so we'll see what happens here. XSET, though, best bet for them right now is to continue playing out the round. I don't think they have much of a choice currently. And the top floor execution is the priority. You've got Merc upstairs. He's trying to delay as long as he can, and he's already done a great job of that. As you see, we're hitting the last half of the round, and they haven't. The attack has not even gotten through Cigar yet.
There's so much that they're going to need to go through here, and we're getting confirmation that there's going to be a technical pause after this. The previous round was a tactical timeout taken by XSET. Maybe it'll bear some fruit. We're not entirely certain just yet, but they're already down by 1. Filthy, still unable to find that scoreboard through 5 rounds. He's also knocked out. So the air jabs that can be quite crucial when a team goes to retake that kitchen bomb site, should TSM have somebody far enough off site, which they usually do, those aren't going to be available either. So not just a player down, but a crucial piece of utility that XSET won't have available.
Merc inside of Reading has been droned out, and now he's got 2 players to challenge, but he's going to be better than Butters in the heads up. Doesn't expect the second, so Drip is able to get the re, but that's not ideal when you're already a man down. So top 4 control, and guess who you have lost this time? It's the Sledge. Luckily, you've got 2 sets of breach charges in Thomas and Creator's pockets, and they're going to be able to work that vertical fairly well without the hammer.
There's 40 seconds left, plenty of time for XSET to make something happen here, but the issue is that TSM still has a fair bit of gunners in positions where XSET might not be aware of it. Now, if Chala doesn't hit those shots, they're in trouble. Thankfully, he does. Creators hits his on Nabolo, but still, it favors TSM in the final ensuing push here. There's no way for Creators to make it out of there without taking some more damage. Lucky for him, Achieve looks the wrong way. Creators getting softened up even more with Chala getting in on the action. So much damage from the Alda, and there looks like the down from Thomas leaves Creators with just 1 HP. He'll bring his teammate back from the dead, but Gio and Chala will be watching the freezer quite intently, and the only way out is the window because they'll take some damage. Creators tries his best, but TSM locks them out. 5-0 for TSM so far, 1 round away from the perfect half.
Beautiful plays there from TSM, and things are starting to shape up to be a pretty definitive result. And I'm not seeing a lot of encouraging faces on the side of XSET. We'll have a technical pause here just to see if
on old strategies, going back to old haunts to try and make it work? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. What we do know right now is that XSET are going to get a... Oh, he missed. Thomas missed. He was going to get a C4 kill from below, but he missed, unfortunately. And now TSM still have 5 men up, and they know there's one below.
Well, a lot of damage done to creators on that one. Merc as well, losing about half of his HP. We're just past the halfway point here in round number 7. And as you can tell from the scoreboard at the top, TSM had a great first half. And you're hoping for XSET that it doesn't repeat itself or carry on over. They do have the favored side at the moment, at least if this match is any indication. Still a discovery work from TSM as they set themselves up for the final push now with a minute to go.
Well, TSM are in a decent enough position as well. It's actually getting better as Thomas is going to eat a lot of damage from that nade. Down goes Chala, so the first kill for XSET. That bodes well, at least for the defense. Maybe this is going to be XSET's first round, but they've been getting the lead-off pick on most rounds. So it's possible it won't matter on defense just as much as it didn't matter on attack. Only time will tell.
Playing around that deployable shield, this is the calm before the storm as every single gun from TSM is poised and ready. XSET the same. Damage done to Merc, and Craters finds another pick for XSET. Well done for them. Achieved is now in the next line of fire, and Craters has not been shoved off of this spot here in Washroom, guarding the doorway to Cigar quite intently. Filthy as backup. Damage done to his foot. Drip gets punished for that, and now nobody has any control at all over Piano. Great shot from Butters. Achieved one of his own. They're fighting somebody who's not there. Diffuser gets planted by Geo as nobody was paying attention to it, and now it's a 2v3 for TSM in the post plant. A 2v2 as Filthy is dropped, and Geo hunting yet another over by Cocktail over on top of what's called Heaven. For him, he's hoping to wish them all to hell. Geo finished off, so Achieved now in a 1v3. Butters going on the defuse. Great shot from Achieved. The patience is there. Creators, he's only an inch away, but he's got some cover. Up pushing is none other than Achieved, and Creators will have to fall off. This is going to be a tussle. Dupro's fake! Oh! Achieved! What a remarkable clutch! And a 7-0 is just what the doctor ordered for TSM. Not a single round for XSET that time. Cafe is in the books for TSM.
Beautiful shots from Achieved to lock that one out. He played that post plant perfectly, and TSM have come back stronger than ever, it seems, proving the doubters wrong. What a performance. Although I have to say, yes, TSM did great, and I don't want to divert their success too much, but what happened to XSET?
I have no idea.
What was that? I mean, they didn't just play poorly. They played, they were outside of it.
Yeah, that was a very, very poor performance from XSET, and I mean, wow, you don't want to speak down on a team too much, but that is definitely something where you're going to need to spend an awful lot of time VOD reviewing. I don't know exactly what went wrong. I don't know, and we will have to do a post-mortem at some point, and I'd like to hear the team's perspective, to be completely honest, because it could just be, like we said time and time again, it could just be the map. It could just be that maybe they were having an off day. We're not entirely certain. Another culprit as well could be the fact that you said this is a team that rides really high on emotions. Well, if they get inside their own head after 3 or 4 bad rounds, it's possible that the snowball just became an avalanche at that point, and there was no stopping it.
Parker, I was hoping that after the first round got swiped away from XSET that they'd have a fire lit under them and they'd be motivated, but something like the steam just ran out, just disappeared. We saw so many instances there where it's like the thing you know that's supposed to happen for XSET. The pick you know they're supposed to get on Achieved inside of reading. The execute you know they're supposed to go for. The plant you know they're supposed to isolate. It's like that thing that you're so used to seeing comp teams do, they just never do. That final little push to actually get the job done, XSET seems completely incapable of doing. And it's so weird. Because we all know they've got a really talented lineup. Like, you look at XSET, you look at their roster, and you're like, wow, they look like they play really well. Those are some big names that have experience. You expect great things. And then just today, the only explanation, the only devil's advocate I can play for XSET here is that they got trapped in their own heads and they checked out of the match. And that, while it is, you know, it's a bit of a cop-out, it's the best explanation I can come up with.
I mean, we can only guess, right? And I mean, we could be right, we could be wrong. We can look like fools, we can look like gods, who knows? But that matchup, it was done faster than you could ask when Bolo plays. And the answer is going to be, well, next week or the week after, or whenever you want, because that matchup is donezo for TSM fans. And for XSET fans, well, you got the rest of the night off, I suppose, at this point. Regardless, that's our first 2 matchups in the books. There's still 2 more to go. We have a break for you. We'll be right back.